Remember last time we worked on writing our introductions, and your homework was to write your building events, which are the events that lead up to your climax. So now, step 6 of writing your story is writing your climax. What is a climax? A climax is the highest point of tension or drama in the narrative's plot. Often a climax is also when the main character is faced or when the problem of the story is faced and solved by the protagonist. The phrase of the climax is derived from the Greek word klimax, meaning ladder. So in a way, reading a story is like climbing a ladder with the climax at the top. So how to make your climax interesting. So this is the middle point of your book. And usually, if your climax is not interesting, your reader is not going to want to read more. So you have to make sure your climax continues to draw your reader's attention and keep them attentive for the whole book. So you can increase conflict, add suspense, or add surprise, so you can spring something unexpected on your reader. Change the setting or introduce new minor characters, like a new bad person, or for example, in Cinderella, they introduced the fairy godmother. And just a big reminder is your climax has to keep the reader engaged. Okay, so now that you know what a climax is supposed to do and interesting ways to make a climax draw your reader's attention, your task during class today is to write your climax. You'll have 20 minutes of class to work on this, and the sheet which you'll be working on can be found in Google Classroom. So if you go back to Google Classroom, classwork, in class, write your story. This is the same document we've been using the whole time. If you scroll down, there is going to be a climax part, and it tells you what the climax is and what you're supposed to do. So I'll set a timer. And also remember that this slideshow is in Google Classroom if you want to look at it for reference for ways to make your climax more interesting. Okay, I'm going to set a 20-minute timer in a few seconds once you guys are ready. Okay, I'm going to start the timer and then I'll explain to Nathan what a climax is. as always, and as I said in the chat, if you need more time, you can finish it for homework. Okay. Step 7, writing your following actions. What is a following action? A following action is what happens near the end of the story, after the climax and resolution of the major conflict. The majority of literary and dramatic works are built on action, characters doing things, typically pursuing what they want. The climax is preceded by a falling action. Simply put, falling action is what happens what the characters are doing after the most dramatic part of the story has happened. Okay. So here are some examples of falling actions. In Cinderella, the falling action is when Cinderella marries the prince. So this takes place after the problem and solution of the story. In Romeo and Juliet, the falling action is when Romeo receives news about Juliet's death, then heads to her tomb to drink the poison. And in The Three Little Pigs, the falling action is the tale of the Three Little Pigs would be when the wolf lands in the pig's cauldron of soup and gets burned. So writing your falling action. Your falling action can have as many events as you desire. However, the ideal amount of events is one, but you can have as many as you want. And this action to help wrap up your story. And then step 8, the ending. Writing your ending. There are multiple ways to end your story: a cliffhanger, happily ever after, etc. In some cases, you don't even need to write a proper ending because your falling action is enough to leave your reader satisfied. However, most typical fairy tales will have like a happy ending or something like that, just one little action to tie up your story. So an ending should seal the reader's satisfaction with your piece. It leaves them thinking and maybe talking about it long after they finish reading. A story ending can either be happy or sad. It can leave the reader uplifted or pensive or heartbroken, but it has to feel right. So your homework due next Saturday, August 15th, is to write your falling action on the Write Your Story sheet and write your ending on the Write Your Story sheet, the same sheet we have been working on this whole time. Again, if you go to here, right at the bottom, it says due 8:15 and the ending as well. And I will give you feedback for your climax and also your building events, which you did for homework, hopefully by the end of today. And that's all we have right now. And also this slideshow will be available in Google Classroom if you would like to look at it for reference to finish writing your story. Anyway, thank you. That's